everybody. My name is Suzette Biernon, and it is my privilege to bring you weekly content that amplifies your voice, your value, and your vision. 3 critical factors of enoughness. By doing so, you can experience love and life in a brand new way. In fact, this episode is being brought to you by Do You Speak Male? The 5 C's of Understanding a Man's Language. For the next level woman who is ready to up-level her relationships. For more information, go to bit.ly/his language. If you're just tuning in, a hearty welcome. Out of all the podcasts that you could be listening to right now, you decided to tune in to Enough Factor Podcast. And I also want you to know, if this is your first time, that June is special because June I've declared as the month of the man, where I am celebrating the voice and the value of Black men. I wanted to lend my platform to allowing Black men to speak their truth without retaliation, without shaming, without guilting. I wanted them to be able to say what it was they wanted to say. And here to help me is none other than speaker, author, and certified life and relationship coach and reality expert, Troy Spry. Troy is an avid blogger who invites the world to share in the many interesting thoughts and conversations he has about life, love, and the lessons they've taught him. His popular blog, books, conversation parties, webinars and seminars, inspirational morning messages, lunchtime discussions, and personal one-on-one relationship and life coaching helped him grow from a blog to a brand to a movement. He holds a position as an official staff writer for the award-winning website blackandmarriedwithkids.com, where he was recently the recipient of the Writer of the Year and the Writer's Choice Award. Troy also has had the pleasure of writing for celebrity matchmaker Paul C. Brunson, and his work was featured in Jet Magazine Online. He was chosen to be the guest blogger for the Steve Harvey Act Like a Success conference. And he is a dating expert and contributor for datingadvice.com, digitalromance.com, vixendaily.com, and realblacklove.com. So without further introduction, join me in welcoming Troy Bond. Hello, welcome, Troy.
Hey, how are you?
You sure you want to know the answer to that?
Well, I don't know if I really want to know. I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they said one of the things you should ask people instead of like, "How are you?" It should be like, "Are you healthy today?" So like things that are very that gets people more talking that they can't escape from so fast.
Yeah, that one. Are you healthy today? Now, that's a loaded question. I think I need to ask you that one because that's the reason why you're here. So now let me pose it to you, Troy. How are you? Are you healthy?
So I would say I'm functioning. I would say I've had better days, right? Because I mean, at some point, it gets so heavy, you know? And the hardest part is you still have to function within the world, even when it's heavy, you know, and people don't really understand that piece of it. It's like I literally have to get on these calls and things and smile, you know, all day long, you know, with work people or corporate people or whoever it is, when really you just want to scream sometimes, you know?
Yeah, I know. I had that happen yesterday. I don't know if you saw my mild rant, but it wasn't a rant. It actually was me responding to something inside of me. I was driving to the chiropractor, and the whole time I was driving, all I kept hearing was, "I can't breathe.
Mm.
It was interesting. It's like I heard my soul saying it.
Mm.
And I
Heavy.
just began to just cry. I was driving and I was crying. I was driving, I was crying. And when I got there, I think what it was for me was I knew I was getting ready to walk into a place
Mm-hmm.
that I was expected to smile and act like I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had been to that chiropractor at least 3 other times and I had not seen anybody else of color.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was walked in and everybody acted like everything was unaffected, everything was fine. My skin color you cannot deny,
Mm-hmm.
but yet I'm still greeted with a canned, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Expecting a canned, I'm fine. And I
Mm-hmm.
just, and that was causing me to feel like I could not breathe because I wasn't fine,
Yeah,
you
I know. And
know?
it's that freedom. I mean, everybody else has the freedom of doing that, right? Oh, something
Yeah,
happens and they don't carry that,
yeah.
and we carry it every day. We can't escape it.
We cannot escape it. And it's funny because, not funny, haha, but, you know, surprising, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not surprising, that I could not hold it in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went into the chiropractor and just tears.
Mm-hmm.
And she stopped everything and she sat down with me. She said, are you all right? We need to talk. What's going on? What's going on? And I attempted to try to tell her. I said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sad and I'm angry. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, why? What's wrong? Why? And that only made it
Worse.
worse.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was as if you've gotten so used to seeing me, but not seeing me.
That's powerful right there.
And
Yep.
I realized I have been complicit in helping you to do that.
Yes. I think we all have in some ways. That's what we're taught to do. That's how we cope.
Yeah.
In order
That's
to
it.
operate in the world, you have to be able to speak a different language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's so, and it's unfortunate because the conversations we have at our dinner tables are totally different than the ones we have out in the world. And we wish we could have them out in the world. But I think now we're starting to see a little bit of that, though. I mean, I've seen lately, I've had more conversations this week with people that don't look like me about these
Really?
topics than I have ever had in my life.
In preparation for us talking today, I said, let me just go back and just some names that people may have forgotten
Mm-hmm.
in the current climate, but Trayvon Martin,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Brown, Alton Sterling,
Mm-hmm.
Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson,
Mm-hmm.
Breonna Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
Ahmaud Arbery,
Yep.
George Floyd.
And we forgot Tamir Rice in there. Remember, we got
Tamir
Tamir Rice.
Rice. Yeah.
There's
That's why I'm
so
like,
many.
there's so many. It's just it's hard to keep up with it. So when you ask, if I'm healthy,
Mm-hmm.
I have to say I'm functioning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not crying today.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
And it's almost like
Gosh.
I think what happened to George Floyd, I think it was a breaking point for a lot of people, not even
Yeah.
just people that look like us, because there was no justification you could create in your mind. You couldn't look at that and say, well, what did he do? Or, what did he have a weapon? There's more to the story. No, there was nothing more to the story. I mean, I don't care what he did, what happened, what we saw on video. And so I think the reality check set in. I was like, oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And we're like, yes, we've been trying to tell you that for years.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to declare June the month of the man. I was just going to celebrate men because I felt like, we only give y'all Father's Day.
Oh, that's all we get.
and y'all still don't get as much shine as the mothers get. So I was
Oh
like,
no.
that's not fair. So I'm just going to declare June the month of the man. There you go. And I was just going to have a diverse panel of men coming through. But then when what happened, what broke about George Floyd, I was like, no, I want voices to be heard that don't normally get heard. I want voices to be heard that most of us dismiss, explain away, put a label of anger on it. You're too much of this, you're too little of that, that we have turned a deaf ear to. I said, I want Black men to be able to say the doggone thing the way they feel it without fear of retaliation, without fear of it being diminished.
Yes.
And without feeling like we see them as weak.
I mean, it's amazing that you're doing that, because very rarely are Black men asked asked their opinion and actually listened to. You know, we might be asked our opinion, like, you know, in passing, you know, just to act like that people care. But how many times do people really care what we have to say? So
yeah. And I thought about this, and I wanted to ask you this as well, because I know how it impacted me. But how did it impact you, where your voice inside just wanted to just say to everybody? What was it that your soul was just, mine was screaming, I can't breathe yesterday, surprised the heck out of me. But what has your soul just been just crying out to say?
I think mine is can you hear me now? You know what I mean? I think that's what mine has been asking for the longest. So I stopped fighting a lot of battles, because I was like, you know what? I don't know if people really want to hear. Like, what we've been asking for is solidarity, right? That's at the end of the day. I don't understand why people can't get this. We're not asking for sympathy. We're not asking for anything else other than solidarity, right? From everybody. It's like, help. I want you to understand that this is heavy, that there's pressure every time I walk out the door. There is expectations that sometimes I might fear that I can't reach. You see what I mean? So like the bar is set here, but yet I'm only given the resources here. You know what I mean? Or, you know, from birth, when you're a little kid, when you're taught you got to be twice as good all the time, right? And you have all these things that just load on it. You got to be the perfect guy and the perfect man, and you got to provide, and you got to protect everybody, and you got to be strong, and you got to do all of these things. And no one stops to think that that's heavy. That's really heavy. And so sometimes we endure it, and we endure it, and we endure it because we don't know any other way. And that's bad for our mental health. It's really bad for our mental health. I mean, I think I had my breaking point last night.
Really?
Finally, where I let it just come out. And I was like, you know what? I can't hold it back anymore. It's just, you know, it's one thing on top of another. And not just, you know, it's not just the George Floyds of the world. You know, it's the corporate America part of it. It's the, you know, the business part of it. It's the educational system. It's the systemic racism. It's all these things where you always playing chess when everybody else get to play checkers. And chess is a lot harder to think about than checkers, you know?
Yes, it
so
is.
That's kind of where I think a lot of Black men are, but no one wants to hear that, because it sounds like you're making excuses, right?
Yeah. I was looking at some posts on Facebook, and just what you're saying is what some people are saying as well. But the thing about it that I am grateful for is that we have a voice.
Yes.
And because, you know, I was trying to think of, you know, how can I support the change? Because like you said, we don't want a handout. No, we just want solidarity. We want fairness. We want equal access.
That's it.
Because we're human, that other humans have without question.
Without question. Normalize equality.
That's it. That's it. Because I told someone in a post, I empathize with white people that are trying to put into words they're not being silent.
Yes, that's step one.
I see them trying, but at the very same time, They don't understand that entitlement is all in what they're saying, though.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep.
They don't know, because when they come here, there is no question that they're human.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my point that I made to a gentleman. I said, I know your heart. I said, you
Mm-hmm.
are a kind soul.
Mm-hmm.
You really are. I said, I'll never know what it's like to be you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never know what it's like to be me.
Mm-hmm.
But we both know what it's like to be human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, wrong.
Mm-hmm.
My ancestors weren't brought here as humans.
Exactly.
I said, so you get the right to be human.
That's good.
But what's only being perpetuated from 400 years
Mm-hmm.
is we got to try to convince you
Preach on it.
to treat us as humans, because you don't see us as humans. And if you can objectify a person,
Uh-huh.
you can kill them.
Absolutely. You can feel justified in it.
You can feel justified in it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what the media have been doing to us forever. Is making us not less than human, right? Animals is the words they use. They make us into animals, monkeys and whatever. And so it's easier to kill those people. That's why the police can do it and not think twice about it. And then that's why here's the other part of that. That's why people can watch it and justify it in their brains. That's even worse, right? Because they'll look at it one day and the next day it don't even bother them no more.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't feel that. They don't feel that in their spirit like we feel it in our spirit. It's like, because that could literally be me. No matter, like, what we do as Black men is we are chasing something all the time, right? We're always chasing to be seen, right? And we got to be so good at everything to even be equal. And that is exhausting. That is absolutely freaking exhausting, just to try to prove to people that you are worthy, right? Most people, like, I even look at it, I mean, stories, I look in corporate America every single day, and I realize that a lot of time as a Black man, you don't get the grace that other people get. You're almost guilty till proven innocent, where everybody else is innocent until proven guilty. You see what I'm saying? And that is heavy. So you always have to be more prepared. You got to dress a little bit better. You got to be sharper. You got to do all these things just to be on the same level. Exhausting. White people don't have to wake up every day and think about that. They don't. And they don't understand the burden that is every single day. And then if you have if you happen to be one of the exceptions, like myself or whoever, because they think we're an exception, then you have to deal with the other side of it. The other side of it is you are an exception, but you're only an exception because somebody noticed you because you were Black. So you do all this to prove yourself just for someone to diminish it in their mind. I've heard these conversations and people joke about it, but I know it's true. I've heard the conversations by the water cooler or whatever, where it's like, well, so-and-so might get that job, because, they're trying to fill a quota. You see what I'm saying? Not thinking that guy is probably twice as good as they are because he's always had to be that way. But you hear those conversations. For the first time in my life, I've started to hear older white men claim discrimination.
Wow.
Right? Now, they claim it in there, and see, they don't even realize that it can be defensive, right? It can be offensive, but it's this whole idea of, well, I'm a minority now because I'm an older Black guy. No one wants I'm an older white guy. No one wants an older white guy to work for them. And I'm like, it's like, you're an endangered species now. Like, we've been saying this forever. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Like, ageism happens and other things happen. Trust me, I understand how all of it works. But my point is, does that create any solidarity, I wonder? Right? Do you now see what I've been dealing with since I've been 18, 19 years old in that same workplace? Right? So if you get another job, should I say, oh, they gave it to you because you were an older white guy? you see what I'm saying? So that's the kind of stuff no one wants to talk about, because those are the nasty conversations that happen. I'll give you another example. If you're in corporate America, you ask any Black man who is really good at what he does, Ask him if he's ever been called too smooth. Because that's what we get labeled as.
You are so right.
Do they call white men that? You ain't never seen white men too smooth.
And I would tell you what made me just, when you said it, because I remember my son, he was maybe he was a freshman or a sophomore in high school. And he accompanied me to a Christmas party of the people that I work for. And of course, I'm the only Black person, but that's normal for us. So that was no problem. I had no problem with that at all. But we went in, and my son was talking to everybody, engaging in great conversation, laughing, charming, all the things that he is. And somebody came up to me and said, your son is really working this room. I'm like, why is it that the other white kids that are in here, it's nobody thinks they're working the room. But my son, who is just being himself, is saying, honey, your son needs a position in sales because he is working this room.
It's ulterior motive. We always got to have an ulterior motive, right? Not understanding what they don't understand is that because I live in an environment where I've had to adapt so much, this is easy to me. You see what I mean? This is easy to me. The stuff that y'all think is hard is easy to me. And so that's why it comes off as smooth, or you got too much swagger, or you got too much confidence. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like, no, I'm just sure of myself because I've had to do it so much. I've had a lot of years of practice, you know? And so those are heavy things. At some point, you just want to be like, you can't even have a bad day. I mean, the one day you have a bad day, the whole world knows about it.
The whole world.
Johnny can come and have a bad day every other day. No one cares. Oh, that's just Johnny.
Yeah,
right?
it's like you can be Black, but don't be that Black.
Bingo.
Because when you have a bad day, your Blackness is showing, and it's showing at an unacceptably high level. So can you tone your Black down?
Oh, they do it to Black women all the time. Oh gosh, they kill Black women for having a voice. And I'm like, why? Just because she's confident in what she's saying doesn't mean that she can't have a voice, you know? So to me, it's like, it's those little small things that no one really, they don't know how they add up. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's what privilege is. But no one wants to look at privilege in that way. No one wants to look at it in that way. Is that all of the subconscious things that you don't have to think about, I have to think about consciously. That's privilege.
It's exactly what it is.
That's it. And I hate it, but it is what it is. I mean, the way we have to interact. I mean, I've never seen a white guy feel like he has to tone himself down, right, when people walk past, or make himself overly happy to not feel like a threat. You see what I mean? I have to do it all the time. I have to make people feel like they can be safe around me. That's crazy. I ain't never seen a white man have to think about that.
That makes my heart hurt, actually.
You know, sometimes, and this is hurtful, like sometimes as a Black guy, what you'll do is, in order to avoid that feeling of dissonance, you might change your environment. I'll give you an example. I might see a group of white women, right? I see them in my periphery down the street or whatever it is, and I might be walking towards them. I might cross the street just to avoid that feeling of, are they going to clutch their purses when I walk past? In order to not make myself feel disappointed. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those little things, they're small, but they're big. You know what I mean? Or I might tone myself down in a certain way, or I might smile a little harder than I need to smile, you know, about something, just to not feel that like a threat, because I don't want the disappointment. Or I get another example, and this is an old one, but it's a good one. It's in the store, right? You have never seen a white guy say, I'm not taking a bag in that store, right? Like, say you went from one store, you've never heard a white guy or a white woman say that, right? For me, I might have that bag and I might go take it to the cashier and say, hey, I just want you to hold on to this while I go shop.
Yep, I've done that.
You see, but no, they don't ever have to think about that. In fact, they would be highly offended if someone asked them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of thing.
Gosh, and it's funny because even in you saying that, when I think about the protests that are going on, which are necessary, I think we all have a part to play to move this needle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great part because it has gotten more coverage than the pandemic. Imagine that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's necessary. But I also think there's the back end part that we all, that maybe might not be carrying picket signs, but we're using our gifts and our resources in a different way to help further this. And I said to someone the other day, it is wonderful that you're taking a knee with the protesters. But when you get up off your knee and my son walks downtown, don't see him as a threat. Or when somebody jogs somewhere that they feel like, well, this is not your neighborhood, that it's not going to be justified by this, oh, I was afraid for my life stuff. It's like, okay, I love the kumbaya, but I'm so over, Troy, I'm over the kumbaya.
I'm over it too. I need you to take action.
I need you to take action.
I need you to check your bias. Even now, mind you, this is a journey for everybody, right? So I just need you to be conscious of it and then correct it. I'm not saying it's going to change overnight. I'm not saying one day you're going to wake up and not feel those feelings because you've been doing it your whole life, right? But what I am saying is when you feel those feelings, check yourself and say, you know what? Why am I crossing the street? Why am I clutching my purse a little bit tighter? You know, why don't I do it when I see that person, but I do it when I see that person? You know, why do I lock my door when that person comes by, but that person, I don't? You see what I mean? Like, to me, those are the things I want you to check yourself on. Now, there are bad people. Don't get me wrong, in both races, in all races.
All races.
But I just don't want ours to be the norm, our bad people to be the norm, and it to be the minority in other races. To me, that's a problem.
That's a problem. Most definitely a problem. I'm so glad that we're talking about it. And I love that you're bringing the corporate perspective. I love that you're bringing that. Yeah, I love that you're bringing that perspective, the corporate perspective, because I had not talked to someone who was in corporate. And so to hear you talk about it, because I left corporate a long time ago, but to hear you in the trenches of all that it takes out of you just to show up that way so that you can contribute.
Yeah. And here's the other piece that people don't think about in corporate. When you are the exception to the rule that they think you are, now you represent the whole race. You know how heavy that is? So now if you don't do well, then now, we knew we shouldn't have hired that black guy. No one says that about Johnny or Susie. No one. And we feel the burden of feeling like we have to represent the whole freaking race. No, that's a subtle thing, but it's heavy. You know what I mean? And those are they're nuances. And somebody might look at this and say, well, that's your fault or blah, blah, blah. No, we've just been taught that because we've seen it happen over and over and over again. The other piece of it, then say you get into a position of leadership like I've been in, right? Now, if I consciously want to recruit people that look like me, that's a fight. Right. But people do. But nepotism exists every single day. But it's only a fight if I want to do it.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? That's bias. But how is it not bias that your friend has last 3 jobs you feel was your friend that you bought in that looked just like you? But to me, that's the stuff that we got to talk about. We don't talk about it, right? Because it's taboo to talk about that stuff in the workplace.
Yeah. And it's also taboo, Troy, to other people can take a mental health day when they're going through something traumatic. But we don't even have the right to take a day to grieve. I mean, these deaths weren't just names for us.
Yes.
And we can't even take the time to grieve.
Because think we are already been told that we're lazy from the beginning. when we are the hardest working people in freaking America.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been told, they told us a long time ago that we were lazy. And so now you got to prove that you aren't lazy.
And it amazes me that you're called lazy when this whole doggone country was built by us.
Exactly. You can't be lazy and build a country. It's not.
That need to be on a t-shirt. You can't be lazy and build a country.
It don't work that way.
It don't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
It's heavy. Everything I keep going back to the word heavy, though. I mean, think about everything we're talking about. It's another rock, and then another rock, and then another rock. Then they wonder why we break. Then we break, and something wrong with us. Right now, I will say on the other side, I have seen a shift in the movement of Black men being more willing to talk, but it's not where it needs to be. And to get their mental health, checked on, and self-care and all that stuff. I think we got to keep talking about it, because if we don't, we're going to keep breaking ourselves.
Yeah, and it's almost like a lesson in futility when you go to a therapist or a counselor or a coach or whoever to deal with your mental health, only for you to go back out and to get it broken again.
Mm-hmm. You come out there, you're refreshed, and then George Floyd happens, right? You refresh, and then Breonna Taylor happens. You're like, what in the world? And I actually empathize with Black women so much, because they're usually the ones left to deal with us in our mental, in our emotional states.
Mm-hmm.
And we aren't the best. We aren't naturally the most communicative beings, because we've been taught not to do that too.
Right. That's right.
And so you're sitting there trying to figure out what we're thinking, and we're like, everything's fine. And then all of a sudden we do something crazy, and we realize it was all those pebbles.
Mm-hmm. All those pebbles. My husband and I have that conversation often, where he'll be doing something and I'm looking at him. He's a little off, and I'm like, babe, you all right? No, I'm fine. And he's moving, fidgeting, moving.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like a helicopter wife, but I know your energy is not where it needs to be. Now, I'll give you room to process it, but I'm going to come back around if it ain't resolved. And I'm going to say, baby, are you all right? And I'm going to need you to tell me what's going on.
And we need it. I mean, it's we don't like it, but we need it, because nobody else is checking on us.
Yeah, because we gotta care. We gotta care, and it kind of is a perfect segue, because I know what really brought us together the very first time. But this is me and Troy's second time. But that's our second time. But what originally brought us together was your book, Teach Me How to Love.
Yep.
And when it was interesting, because I was thinking about who I wanted to be on the podcast in June, and I happened on your post where you had Teach Me How to Love. I'm like, oh my God, is this like prophetic for this time? And I know you wrote it with something different in mind, to strengthen relationships, romantic relationships. But my God, isn't that what's really going on here? Teach me, teach us as human to human, teach us as person to person, teach us how to love, because you can't treat somebody you love this way.
There you go. That's it. So you can't say you love me, but then you totally turn a blind eye to what's going on in my community like that. That's like if we just turn the blind eye if genocide was happening, to the Jewish people, and I got Jewish friends. I can't be sitting there supporting that or just brushing it away. You see what I'm saying? It's like, if you care about me, I want you to care about my perspective too. Don't just care about my culture, because they appropriate our culture all the time.
Oh yeah.
Right? You love our culture. You love the swagger when it's not in the workplace. You love the music, unless you want to talk mess about me and say, oh, your music is about killing people, but you sing it every day.
Oh yeah.
Right? So it's like, you love those parts of us. You got to love the full part of us, though. If you love all of me, then you can understand me a little bit better. And so what I want my white brothers and sisters to understand is this: it's not good enough to just make a post or something like that, right? And what I want them to understand too is it's not our job to have to teach them all the time. We want you to go and do some self-reflection and read some history and talk to some people, because it's exhausting to then do all this. And then now I got to teach you why it is the way it is.
Yeah. And then have enough left to be a father to your daughter, a husband to your wife, be able to greet people when you in corporate America with the weight of the world on your shoulder because you got to be black, but not too black. And you know, you got all this, and now you're looking at me saying, what can I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, really? It's almost like somebody putting their knee on your neck and you can't breathe. That's really what's happening to us. I think when he was saying, I can't breathe, it was the voice of every black person in this country.
I agree.
I can't breathe. And yet you want me with your knee on my neck. And when I say your knee, I mean the knee of systemic bias, systemic racism, not the laws, because we don't need no more laws. We need the system
You're
change.
Right.
Because laws, we got the 13th Amendment, but that didn't get us anything. It's not until the system changes. So the knee of your system of entitlement and superiority and ignorance and amnesia.
It's a lot of amnesia.
Is on my neck. And you want to tell me how to get your knee off my neck? I didn't put your knee on my neck. So why should I have to tell you how to do it?
Yep. If you wanted to know about anything else, you go research it.
Google is up all day long.
YouTube, you can go right now. I was listening to one earlier called White Fragility. All right, you go to YouTube and look up her work. I forget her name, but it's White Fragility, and it talks about why white people don't want to talk about racism in America, like what it does to them. You got to go look it up. It's powerful stuff, but it's called White Fragility. I think that's a good place to start because then it does that self-reflection thing, right? So you can't displace it and say, oh, y'all are just too sensitive. Y'all are just too this. Oh, y'all just want a handout. Y'all just, blah, blah. I'm not racist. I have a black friend. You, like all those things that they say that they don't even realize what it does to us. Like go and look at it. Like go and research it. Learn the history of it. Because for some reason, people think that the Emancipation Proclamation stopped racism. I'm like, what? So you took the chains off, and then you took the chains off my arms and put them on my legs. That's all you did.
Yeah. Oh, what you did was you took the label of slavery and you monetized it.
That's it.
That's all you did.
Complex. That's all you turned.
It's like, okay, I'll pay you to be my slave. That'll make you feel better about it.
That's it. I will find a way, and no one even knows that history. That's the thing. Have you stopped to study that and stop saying we're just making excuses? Oh yeah, you have the same opportunities I have. Bullshit, BS. I'm sorry.
No, you can say it. I told you this was a safe place. We going in because it is. It's not, the playing field is not equal.
It's not the same. I see it every day in the business. All right, think about it. If everybody in power looks like you, and you bring along everybody else that looks like you into organizations or whatever it might be, how is that equal?
It's not equal.
You don't even have a pool of people to go fish for people like me. We have to make you have a diversity and inclusion program just for you to think about it. And it's not their fault. It's just the system that they're in, right?
And that's why I said it's the system that's broken, because the laws are already there. The laws to protect humanity and human rights, they're there. But the only thing that is going to make them enforced is the system. It's the system of power that this country is built on. Nobody wants to give up. Nobody wants to share. A lot of times people try to use the Bible and spirituality on us. If you want to, let's talk about this then. I've never seen that story, or whether it was a parable, I'm not sure, that Jesus gave about the rich young ruler. When he said, how can I inherit the kingdom of heaven? And he talks about the commandments. And he said, I've been keeping those since I was young. And Jesus zeroed in on the real issue, the entitlement, the superiority, the power. And he said, okay, if you really want to have riches in heaven, sell everything you got and give it to the poor. And I can at least respect the rich young ruler, because he shook his head and said, I can't do it. What I cannot condone is you acting like you're for me.
Yep.
But you still keeping.
Yeah, because you don't want to lose that power.
That power. I'll give you a little something to make you feel.
Give your crumbs right here.
Yeah, and because you ain't had no crumbs, you're going to be real happy.
You were happy with the crumbs. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's the reason why you should be happy with a $1,200 stimulus check and a corporation gets a $500 million one. That's why I gave you something to shut you up, didn't I?
Yeah, didn't I help you pay your rent? Didn't I help you? And it's like, and it goes back to what we're saying. Solidarity.
That's it.
Solidarity. That is exactly, until you are willing to divest yourself of your superiority and your privilege in order for somebody else to be on an equal playing field with you, then the most that we will ever have is a superficiality to our relationship, where we both are being complicit in perpetuating this lie that everything is all right when it is not.
And it's all driven from fear. Yeah. If I allow you to be equal, then I lose my leg up, and you might just pass me.
That's the problem.
And I can't have that.
I can't have that.
That can't happen.
That cannot happen. And that's why I said entitlement is so deep. And I don't think people mean it maliciously. But when you peel that thing back, I mean, think about what it feels like to be balling. Think about what it feels like to be the top dog.
Absolutely. The power feels good.
Power feels doggone good. So why would you want to give that up? And I'm like, well, if you really care like you say you care, that's why I said I can get with the rich young ruler, because the rich young ruler said, you know, Jesus, you can have that. I'm going back to my millions. Sorry, dog. You know, I appreciate it. I'm glad we had this chance to talk.
Yep.
So at least he was honest enough to say he couldn't do it.
There you go.
But don't patronize.
Because I don't want your pity. It's not the pity that I want.
I
want the equality. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I want to be at the same starting spot you at. And if we can do that, then may the best man win.
Exactly. I'm like, because somebody was saying, I was talking to someone, they were saying, you know what? When I see somebody of color being mistreated, I say, stop. And I'm like, but I don't want to need a white person or a person of any race to have to stand between me and somebody else. I don't want to need you to take care of me. Because that is still perpetuating superiority.
It still has a complex where I owe you something.
Exactly. Where you need me to protect you. I got you. I'll protect you. I'm a 60-year-old woman. I don't want nobody having to stand in front of me. I worked too hard to get to 60. I stand in my own shoes, of my own accord, in my own enoughness. That should be enough reason for me not to get shot. That should be enough reason for you to respect me.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, no, you're missing the point. If you're going to fight because you believe in equality.
Absolutely.
Fight because you realize this system was wrong from the beginning. And we've got to deconstruct it so we can reconstruct it. Fight for that. But don't become my caretaker, because then you're going to make my head spin around like Linda Blair's.
There you go. But here's the other thing, though, is people, a lot of times what you'll find is if you ask your white counterparts, they don't really know their history either, right? They're not taught their history the way that is really written, or the way it really is. And so it makes it easy to be justified in things, right? If you don't really know what you did. Right, all you're taught is, my parents fought and my grandparents fought in World War II, and we saved the world. No, you weren't taught about what happened before that. About when you came into the Indians, land. All right, your Native Americans. You weren't taught that piece. You weren't taught about how bad slavery really was. All you were taught was oh yeah, we let them free. with the Emancipation Proclamation. And slavery was bad, but it wasn't that big a deal. You don't know the gruesomeness of it and how it cut down families and how it broke up generations and how, even when we tried to segregate ourselves, how you came and ruined that too. Right? Because you saw us starting to do well for ourselves on Black Wall Street, and you wanted me separate. I tried to be separate, and then you still wouldn't let that happen. So we integrated. And then we integrated, and we thought we could all be equal. And that's still happening because now the system is not an equal system. And so you look at me less than all the time.
Never was. And that's what people need to understand. That's why what happened 400 years ago has been the foundation that they tried to build on. Mm-hmm. And anybody who's lived in a home that has a bad foundation knows unless you get that foundation fixed, anything that you have on it, it's going to crumble. And those are the floorboards. And as you said, you cannot romanticize. And I think sometimes we've done it, but you can't romanticize that this country was started by deceiving the people that were already here into befriending you, helping you, being kind to you, only for you to turn around, take their land, drive them out, then go over to another continent, bring other folk in to build the systems that will keep you in power.
That's it. That's it. And then have the nerve to say that Christopher Columbus found it all. The nerve. And so think about it. If you were taught that this guy came over on his boat or whatever and found America, you think that you did everybody a favor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much deeper than we can have these conversations for days because it's so much deeper than what's on the surface. But I know the point of our call was to kind of see, talk a little bit more about how we are feeling and Black men and how we're feeling. I hope this helps. Like just help you understand that there's those pebbles, man. They add up. They do, and I don't. And the last thing I want anybody to take from this conversation is excuses. We are not a people of excuses. I promise we aren't. We do want solidarity, though. I think at the end of the day, if you just try to see a different perspective, understand where I'm coming from, and then check yourself, that's where some change can start. And then we get into the systematic stuff. Because once we change your mind and your heart, then it's easier to change a system. That's where we got to get to.
We got to get to that. And it was funny because I was going to say, Troy, before we end, I wanted to find out what your takeaway is, but you just said it.
That's it. That's how I feel about it. I don't want to be angry.
I don't either.
Right? I don't we don't want to be angry. That's why when we go to cookouts and we go to hanging with each other, why we have such a good time because we just want to be able to be free.
Just free to just be who we are.
That's it. With no judgment, with no judgment. It's so funny. I'll give you this last story and I'll let you go.
Sure.
One of the things I've started to check myself on a little bit subconsciously is the whole music thing, right? Like when I'm not talking about the words in music, I'm talking about the sound of it. Like when I go out of town or if I go from driving somewhere, I have never seen a white friend of mine say, I gotta turn the music down, right? In their car or in like an Airbnb or something like that. I'm super conscious of, because I don't want the police called to the house.
Yes.
So my friends will have the music on, like, no, turn the music down. I don't want anybody called here on us. No one has to think about that, right? It's in your car, in the music in the car. Turn the music down. We go into a neighborhood, especially ones that ain't mine, you got to turn the music down. That's stuff that you carry, right?
Yeah.
That's freedom.
That's
what
freedom
it is. They don't have to think about that. We want the free. I want my daughter to have those freedoms. I don't want her to have to carry all the stuff that we have to carry. And I can't even imagine what my ancestors carried and my grandmother and the people before them. I mean, if I feel like this now, imagine what they felt like. So I just want that solidarity. I think if we can close it with, we just want some solidarity. That's it.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on. You are a beautiful spirit, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much. You have just listened to the Enough Factor podcast with your host, Suzette Vernon. To get notified of new episodes or to dig deeper into today's topic, become a subscriber. And while you're at it, tell us how we're doing and what topics you're interested in. We appreciate your feedback and your reviews. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough.